right, folks, we're going to go ahead and get started here. Thank you so much for tuning in to another Webinar Wednesday. The topic of this week's webinar is Life on Campus. My name is Shannon Bengen, and I'm an admissions counselor here at MSU. So as we jump in, here are kind of some of the basics as we move through this webinar. If you are having difficulty hearing me through your computer, you do always have the audio option to call in. And so we have that US toll-free line there on the slide. Feel free to call that and then code in that access code. Throughout the webinar, you are going to be able to chat in questions. First, you click that speech bubble at the bottom of your screen. It will pop up. You can ask questions throughout the presentation, and we are going to be dedicating some time at the end to have a live Q&A as well. So kind of keep that on your radar. We do always want to make sure that you keep your questions and comments appropriate and relevant as well. Lastly, we will be recording this webinar. So if you have to leave early or jump off, or if you would like to reference this information later, we will be sending out a recorded version of this, and it will also be posted on our website there, so you can always touch base as well. And then tonight's presenters, my name is Shannon. I am originally from Missoula, Montana. I graduated from MSU in 2016, and I have been an admissions counselor for about the last 3 years or so. I'll let my coworker Max introduce himself here as well.
Hi, everybody. My name is Max Hamburger. As Shannon said, I am also one of our admission counselors. I've been doing this for a couple of years now. Also graduated from Montana State University in the spring of 2015 with a bachelor's degree in film and photography, and originally grew up in Buffalo, New York. So anybody from out of state, happy to answer any questions about that too.
All right, and kind of moving into a general overview of tonight's conversation, we have 3 big buckets there. We're going to be focusing on Bozeman and outdoor recreational opportunities. We are going to be touching on campus engagement opportunities and just kind of general MSU culture. And then lastly, we're going to be touching on safety and well-being. So for the first section, the things that we're kind of going to be discussing here for Bozeman, everything from the general town, transportation opportunities, outdoor opportunities, the outdoor rec center, and weather. So kind of moving into the first topic there, Bozeman really is kind of the best of both worlds. We're definitely growing. We have all the amenities of a larger town with the charm of a small Montana town, if you will. We are the 3rd largest town in Montana. So on 19th Street, that's where you're going to find kind of all of those big box stores like Costco, Target, Walmart, all that good stuff. We do also have a lot of ways to get around town. So it is pretty accessible for some of our out-of-state students. With that, we have the largest airport in the state. We've actually been adding some new flights recently and adding some new airlines, so that list just keeps expanding. In terms of getting around town, if you don't have a vehicle, we do have what's called the Streamline bus system. And so that's a free public bus that all community members can take, as well as students. It runs out to some of our surrounding communities. It runs downtown, so it's pretty easy to get around town. We do also have a lot of folks that just walk and bike as well, so pretty accessible for the most part there. If you do decide to bring a car to campus, you are allowed to bring your allowed to bring a car as a freshman. You are required to have a parking permit when you park on campus. It ranges in value, so anywhere from $80 up to $220 for the full academic year, depending on which parking permit you get. Kind of moving into a little bit more about our downtown district. We kind of have, we always joke it's the heart of Bozeman because we have a really unique downtown strip. That's Main Street there, that photo. Downtown is actually all locally owned businesses. So that's where you're going to find a lot of really fun restaurants and boutiques, fly fishing shops. It's a lot to check out. This is also where we host a lot of different events throughout the year. So Music on Main is a concert series that we have in the summer. That's where we actually have a different local band come out every single Thursday for about 3 months. The community catwalk kicks off our school year. Bobcat Fest is where we actually celebrate all of our graduating seniors in May. There's art walks and farmers markets. I could go on and on. This is kind of the place to be, or where a lot of our students spend their time throughout the year. Into some of those outdoor opportunities, I definitely think we're kind of recognized as a very vibrant, active town. There is a lot of different hiking, biking, climbing, skiing, so much more. We'll notice that skiing photo there. It's winter. We did just get a few inches of snow this morning. Bridger Bowl and Big Sky are our 2 closest ski resorts. Bridger is about 20 minutes from campus, and there is a free shuttle that runs up to Bridger. Big Sky, some of the biggest skiing in America, that is about 45 minutes to an hour south of town, and that shuttle up to Big Sky is only $2. So if you can find a few quarters, you can get south of town pretty dang quick. With that, we are also the #1 fly fishing college in the country. We have 3 big rivers to take advantage of. A lot of our students float in the summertime or in the spring. And then we do also have Yellowstone National Park really close. A lot of our students spend the weekends down there, go camping, go fishing. It's about 90 miles south of town as well. To take advantage of some of those outdoor opportunities, we really wanted to take some time to highlight the Outdoor Rec Center. This is essentially a center just dedicated to providing outdoor opportunities and education for our students. So when it comes to experiential education, they host trips and clinics. They're really about making sure that students who have never tried to go fishing or tried to go skiing before have the opportunity to learn in a safe environment. And so those clinics are a really nice way to learn some new skills or try a new activity. With that, they also have up to 12 outdoor rec classes offered right now at MSU. So you can actually get credit for taking advantage of our area. So it's everything from cross-country skiing, downhill skiing. There is an ice climbing course. You can get credit for backcountry survival. I could go on. And so it's kind of a neat way. You can tell your parents it's an academic effort, but kind of a neat way to learn some new skills. With that, we do always like to highlight as well, Expeditions MSU is a very specific program that is offered right around orientation throughout the summer. So those are 4-day excursions. They start June 11th and then they run through August 26th. There is a cost associated with each of those trips, and they last year they were taking students canoeing, whitewater rafting, backpacking in the Rockies. That registration is already open, so it opened January 13th. And so if you check out our outdoor rec page online, you can register for those Expedition MSU sessions as of now. Kind of moving into just general stuff, they offer rentals for all 4 seasons, so anything you could possibly take advantage of. They do also wax your skis, they tune your bike, and they're just kind of our resident experts. So if you ever need to know where to go fly fishing or how to use certain rock climbing gear, they're the kind of the folks that you would go to that can walk you through all of the basics. Moving into weather, as we kind of talk a lot about outdoor opportunity, we do get a lot of questions about just general Bozeman weather. We always like this photo because it compares Spirit during the summer as well as the winter. We do get about 86 inches of snow on average throughout the year, but with that, we always like to reassure folks that we're really used to it here in Bozeman. So our roads are really well maintained. Our plows are out at 4 a.m. You can absolutely still get to and from class. I always like to joke that Bozeman gets all 4 seasons. Winter's just a tad bit longer in that, but it is definitely manageable for some of those students that are coming from areas where they get less snow. You definitely adapt pretty quickly. With that, the average temperature is about 34 in January, and then the average summer temperatures are right around 83. So it is a nice balance between the two. The biggest perk that I always like to point out is that we get around 300 days of sunshine. So even when it is winter, maybe it's a little cold, it's pretty much always bluebird skies, big sky country. Kind of moving into the next section here, we do want to touch on campus and student life. So we're going to be talking about the Office of Student Engagement, fraternity and sorority life, general athletics on campus, diversity and inclusion, and then MSU Debut programming. So with that, we do have the Office of Student Engagement, so OSE. It's kind of the hub for all things student life. So we do have close to 300 different clubs and organizations these days. So it's everything from outdoor rec groups, intramurals, fraternities and sororities, faith-based groups. It's truly like everything you could possibly imagine these days. I learned that we have a Quidditch team on campus, so I really like to think we kind of have it all. That full club and organization list is available at that link, montana.edu/engagement, and you can also filter it out based on your interests. So that's kind of a nice place to start as well. With that, this is also kind of the hub for all things community engagement. So service Saturdays, those are a day on the weekend that are organized community service efforts. So it's everything from helping out a local business, building a local Habitat for Humanity house. And so there's a lot of ways that campus is constantly supporting the Bozeman community. Breaks away trips are a specific trip that is held over spring break that our students can sign up for. This upcoming spring break, they have a refugee focus, they have an animal sanctuary. These trips actually take place all across the country. And so it's a nice way to get a group of friends, travel to a new state, and actually get a lot of community service hours at the end of the day. Can the Grizz is a fun one. That's an annual competition with our rivals, the University of Montana. So kind of collecting cans and foods around the Thanksgiving season. And then we do always like to point out too that there is a community organization list at that same engagement website listed above. That's where you can check out just general ways to get involved in the Bozeman community and give back as well. This office is also the office that they do a lot, and they're also the ones who host a lot of different events and programs throughout the year. So these are just a few examples, but they are responsible for hosting a lot of concerts, magic shows. They run the Procrastinator Theater, which is kind of a fun name, but it's actually just a movie theater on campus where you can watch really cheap movies. And then they also put on events such as Catapalooza. And Catapalooza is actually where we have the entire strip that runs through campus, and it gets filled up with tents and booths and tables, and it's in the first few days of school. It's right when students are moving into their residence halls, and they can walk along. You can put your name down on an email list, ask some questions, and so it's a really easy way in your first few days at MSU to learn a little bit more about all of these opportunities. And then lastly there on this slide, we always like to point out that ASMSU is our student government on campus. They're kind of the student voice. They have a Senate, and it consists of 21 senators that are elected from their representative colleges, and they're definitely the ones who can kind of be the voice of all of our students on campus for any big changes or any big motions. With that, I am going to hand it off to Max, and he's going to touch a little bit on some fraternity and sorority life opportunities.
All right. Thank you, Shannon. And Shannon mentioned this community briefly kind of during the last slide. This is one of our communities on campus that students have some really great opportunities to be a part of when they're here at MSU. This is a community that's been around the MSU campus for a very long time, going back more than 100 years here on the MSU campus. We right now offer 7 fraternity options and 5 sororities as of this fall. We actually just welcomed back sorority Delta Gamma this fall, so it's a growing coalition. Right now, when we look at the student body, around 4 to 5% of the student body is involved in fraternity and sorority life. So not necessarily a massive percentage of campus, but I can tell you from my experiences, both as a student and now as a professional staff member, this is an incredibly tight-knit and active community on our campus. This is a community that does a lot of outreach work, a lot of work in leadership roles on our campus, so definitely involved. I think one of the wonderful things especially is students are able to come in during their first year or at any different point and learn more about the process, learn what the fraternities and sororities can offer them going through the recruitment process because it's non-binding and it's something they're able to do at the start of semester. And my advice to students is always, if you're interested or think it might potentially be something you want to look at, there's no harm in looking at it. If you decide that it's not the community for you, there's, as Shannon just mentioned, 250 some other options you can look at. But if it is the community for you, the communities that we offer our students here through fraternity and sorority life offer some pretty great options. In addition to being leaders on campus, they all have their own philanthropy efforts and opportunities that students can be a part of with different charities and foundation groups, as well as different living options, right? We require students to live on campus for the first year, and we've actually held webinars on living on campus previously that you can check out, but some of the options offer live-in options for students as well. So for students who are interested, I think it can offer some really, really cool opportunities. Another really cool opportunity for students is going to be athletics. So this is when I talk about MSU, one of the things that I really like to mention to students is MSU is the type of university that gives you a lot of big school perks and experiences, sometimes potentially bigger than you might expect with a campus of our size. And athletics is a good place to look at that. Right now, we have several Division One athletic teams in sports. So we are Division One in the Big Sky Conference. We have 14 Division One sports. You can see several of them listed there, including football, which had a phenomenal season this past fall, basketball, which is off to a really good start, and some other options as well. We also have a Nira rodeo program. And one of the things I enjoyed most as a student when I was here was the fact that tickets during those regular season events are free for students. So I did not have to pay, and our students today do not have to pay to go catch a football game on the weekends or see a basketball or a volleyball game. So entertainment wise, I think this is a pretty cool thing for students to take advantage of. Division One is also as big as it gets in the state of Montana, right? So if you're not familiar, we don't have any professional teams, say in the NFL or in the NHL or NBA. So college athletics is as big as it gets for this state, and you see that support in the fan base show up for the Bobcats, which is school spirit-wise a pretty cool thing to see. Other options that students can look at athletically, we also offer club sports. We've got about 30 of those that get a little bit more varied than our D1 teams. So you'll find things like hockey, lacrosse, soccer, rugby, a couple other options as well. The nice thing about these is they do have competitiveness to them, so they are still competitive teams, and a lot of them do travel and play in national tournaments, but quite without the rigor, for example, of a D1 team. And then, of course, we also do have intramural sports, over 30 teams there as well, which gives students that opportunity both to meet people and stay active, but at a more relaxed pace, right? You know, there's not travel associated with it. It's more for fun and activity while you're on campus here. And a lot of the facilities that we're able to offer students for both club and intramural sports are really top notch. Our student government group actually voted just a few years back and completed construction on our turf field complex, which you can see in the bottom left picture there for intramural and club sports. And then we also have going on at Bobcat Stadium, out at the football stadium, and coming up in the Brick Breeden Field House, some pretty major renovations to the spaces that will be really, really kind of cool for the student experience. So this is one of those big school perks that I think students can take a lot of advantage of. Moving right along, another thing that's equally as important for us to talk about is student diversity and inclusion. When we look at ourselves as a university and where we are and where we'd like to be, this is a huge part of our value set and mission. One of the best resources that we can offer students is what we call the Diversity and Inclusion Student Commons, or DISC. You can kind of see its logo up there on screen. This is a center and common space that is able to offer support and opportunity for students all across campus from a lot of different backgrounds. We have a lot of different advocacy group and representative groups on this campus that do some really phenomenal work. For example, one thing that's actually going on today, because Martin Luther King Jr. Day was on Monday, our Black Student Union has been doing some special programming for Black History Month, where they've brought in special lectures and presentations by current students that have been ongoing in the Student Union all day. We, of course, have other celebrations throughout the year. We have American Indian Heritage Day, along with our MSU powwow that happens every spring. One of the really cool notes for that community especially is the fact that we were able to finish fundraising just about a year ago for what's being called American Indian Hall. It's going to be our Native Student Support Center and common space with academic spaces as well as more student involvement spaces in it. And that's a $20 million project that we broke ground on recently and plan to have ready to go fall 2021. So that's a wonderful addition. And then other things beyond that, when you look at things like our lavender celebration at graduation, different events that we do throughout the year, things like sustained dialogue and safe zone training. This is a very important part of kind of who we are as a university. And as we continue to move forward, this is something that I believe is just going to continue to grow. Even just in the past couple of years since I've been at Montana State, a lot of these groups have been formed or grown in size and added much more to what they're able to offer. So if this is something you're ever interested in looking at, if you just go to our homepage and search diversity or student commons, this is something that'll show up right away, and you can see all this great programming that we were able to offer students. And kind of closing out this section, at least, I want to kind of go a little bit more in depth with something Shannon mentioned earlier, which is MSU Debut. Now, MSU Debut, basically what happens is once you get here and you're ready to go at the start of semester in fall or spring, we want to say, hey, we're glad you're here. We're ready to go academically. Welcome to the family. These are a couple events, you can see a bunch of them listed out there on screen, that take place over the first few weeks of each semester that are designed to engage students and kind of pull them into the family and say, look at all these great things that we can offer you. These are events that range in size from things like the first home football game and the welcome barbecue before school starts to things like convocation, where we invite in an author to come in or a notable figure to come and give a welcome charge to the incoming class. We also do my personal favorite event. You can see it kind of in the middle there at the bottom, which is the class photo. It's the M photo. So we invite all of the new students to come out to the football stadium, put on a bright yellow shirt and get in the shape of an M and get their class photo taken, which is a really cool experience. Regardless of which ones you take advantage of, though, I think the really cool thing about MSU Debut is the fact that it gives you this chance to really learn about the community that you're now a part of and engaging whichever way you feel comfortable, right? Some students might be more comfortable doing that through a service Saturday in the community. Other students might really want to go to Catapalooza, which Shannon mentioned, to check out all the clubs and activities. There's a lot of different ways that our students can kind of engage with this, but the idea is you're part of the family now, and we want to make sure you know about all these great opportunities in front of you. So MSU Debut happens right at the beginning of each semester, and we always make sure throughout orientation and leading into school starting, we get you that information. So that kind of closes out our campus and student life section. Next section I want to talk about briefly is campus and student safety as well as well-being. So kind of in this section, we're going to talk a little bit about not only safety resources, but what's available through our university health partners and some of our other programs on campus. So to kind of start it off with our safety on campus in general, the first thing you should all know, and this is something I tell any family that looks at a school seriously, we publish all of our crime statistics and information right on our website via our campus safety report. That's something you can search from the homepage. You can find it on the Dean of Students website. You can find it on the police website. This is a lot of really important information that students want to look at about safety statistics. And I would say overwhelmingly, we are a university and a campus that takes a very proactive approach to safety as far as ensuring that our students are taken care of and have resources around them. We do, of course, have, you can see Montana State University's police department, which is a full police department that affiliates with campus. They will, I think one of the best things they do is they're a very known and visible presence on campus in the sense that they engage with the community. So, for example, in our residence halls, each hall has like a hall buddy or officer that will do programming in that hall and is known to the staff, known to the students. These are officers and detectives that eat in the dining halls with students. Their number one priority is to make sure that our students are safe and that the community around them is safe. They offer really cool services, things like our police escort system. So we try to make sure campus stays pretty safe and well lit. But for example, if you're walking back from the library after a late night of studying at midnight and you don't feel comfortable walking across campus to your residence hall alone, you can request an escort from the police department to make sure you're safe and you get to where you need to be. This sort of stuff, communicating with the police department, communicating, asking for escorts, reporting crimes or incidents anonymously. This is something that we've actually all wrapped up together in our new Safety Cat app, which you can see on screen there. This is something that we're really, really happy with because it allows us to get these resources in front of students constantly, make sure that they know what's available to them. They know they have these things that can help them out. That dovetails really nicely with what we call the MSU alert system. This is a text message and email and voicemail notification system that lets students and family members know if there's something going on campus, a safety issue all the way down to we had a bear wander by campus. That's something that happens more often than not living in the Rockies. But to make sure students are aware of situations that are happening on campus, one thing to note here, this is an opt-out system. So by default, all of our students who come to MSU are opted into this so that we make sure we're missing as few people as possible. So overall, between all these different things, as well as things like our blue light system on campus, which helps students either get directions or call for emergency help at different stations around campus. 24-hour lockdown in the residence halls and the training that our staff get in the residence halls, you find that between all these systems, we do take a very proactive approach to safety. And I think it does pay off for our students really well. Kind of building off of that, another group to talk about would be university health partners. So, in addition to making sure you're safe, we want to make sure that you're healthy, because that is something that, when you kind of think about it, really does affect your well-being and your experience at college, right? If you're not getting the support you need and you're not healthy and you're not well, that's going to trickle down into your academic performances and everything else. So, again, same case here. I think there are a lot of really good resources available for students, especially given that most of you are going to be in a community that maybe you didn't grow up in or you're not familiar with, right? Your general practitioner or your dentist isn't right down the street. And having these resources right here, including medical services where you can get prescription filled, you can get immunizations taken care of, general care, a full dental clinic that's available, as well as other things like counseling and psychological services, offering free counseling to students. This is something where we want to make sure that you, as students, know that you have these resources available to you and that we can offer them to you. And they're available right on campus. They're right next to the student union building, so pretty convenient to get to. And this is stuff that we kind of loop students in so that they know about all of this as they go through the orientation process. So, with that being said, kind of covering those different areas, those are kind of some of the major things we wanted to talk about as far as campus and student life goes. Again, you can see we covered a lot of different ground as far as like enjoyable, fun, student clubs and everything, and then more resources. So, at this point, what we'd like to do, we've seen several questions come in during chat. We'd like to answer some of those. And those of you who are in the group right now, if you have more questions that are coming in or things you want answered, feel free to add those to chat and we will try and pull those in. But I'll throw the first one here at Shannon real quickly. But let's talk a little bit about dining halls and what's available for students as far as hours and services and all that sort of stuff. Where can we eat?
Yeah, absolutely. So, just to preface this, I do want to say that we did do a residence life webinar, and in that webinar, it does go a little bit more in detail about living on campus and dining on campus. So, I do encourage you to check that one out because it is recorded and it is also on our website. With that, we do have two dining halls on campus. We have both Miller and Rendezvous. Miller was just redone or remodeled in 2016, and Rendezvous opened just over about a year and a half ago. So, really beautiful modern options. They are open from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. all week. With those meal plans, you use your CAT card to swipe in and out, and you can go in as many times as you would like. You can eat as much as you care to eat. We do not charge you based on plate or what you're getting. And so it's a really accessible option, and it really works with a student's schedule, especially if you have a few classes back to back or if you're running around. And with that, we always like to point out too, Miller does offer some late night bites until 10 p.m. and that's Monday through Friday. So if you do have a late lab or if you're working or something like that, you can always still run in and get some snacks and some food before you head off to your room for the evening.
Excellent.
With that, another question that we got is when it comes to transportation, we touched a little bit on the streamlined bus system and bringing a vehicle. One question we got was, do we also have Uber and Lyft in town?
Good question. And we do. We both do have both services available for students and anybody, really. I would say, as somebody who's lived in Bozeman now for about 9 years, Uber and Lyft are relatively new to the area, but they've been really, really helpful and convenient. But as a student and both, just now a full-time adult, I think Bozeman's a pretty easy place to get around. I mentioned at the beginning, I grew up in Buffalo, New York. So my parents were very, very supportive about letting their firstborn son go to school 2,000 miles away. But that support did not extend to having a car my freshman year. They said, if you're going to school 2,000 miles away, we want to make sure you like it before we drive a car all the way out there. So my freshman year, I didn't have a car. And it's definitely a nice to have, especially if you like the convenience, but I by no means found it necessary to get around. Between, at the time, having rides from friends, using the Streamline bus, which again we mentioned goes all over town for free, using my bike, especially during most of fall semester and late spring, and now Uber and Lyft. It's a very, very easy town to get around and campus to get around, even if you don't have that. So nice to have, but I think between all the different transportation options we have, including these newer ones, it's a pretty accessible community for our students. So
Great. We did get a few questions about fraternity and sorority life, and I kind of wanted to touch on those. During my student experience, when I was enrolled here at MSU, I was in a sorority. I'm a Chi Omega, and they do have a recruitment at the beginning of each semester. And so, as Max said, it's a really nice way to just go through recruitment and learn a little bit more before you decide if you want to pursue it or join. When it comes to living in those different options, all of our sororities do currently have chapter houses, so you would be required to live in a sorority house. With our 7 fraternities, some of our houses, some of our chapters do have houses, while others do not. And so, depending on the house that you pursue, there may or may not be a live-in requirement. The live-in requirement does vary from house to house based on the capacity of the house and how many members that you have. And so, for example, my house has around 85 members or so right now. And so I lived in for 2 or 3 semesters. And so it's a really wonderful way to just be close to campus. Parking was free. There is always a chef. So that was nice because I never had to cook too many of my meals, or I could always run home at lunch. And so there are always a lot of benefits to living in those houses, but something to definitely explore if you have an interest there.
And one thing I forgot to mention when we were kind of in that section is pretty consistently from what I've seen, again, during time as a student and professional, our chapters, our fraternity and sorority chapters, consistently will be recognized in their own organizations nationally for different things they do in leadership, philanthropy, academics. So it is, as Shannon mentioned, a really cool experience that students can take advantage of.
Mm-hmm. Kind of moving into just general involvement, one of our students was interested in learning a little bit more about like how you go about seeing a lot of clubs and club sport teams. Does that happen at orientation? Do you learn about that prior? Can anyone help you kind of navigate that experience?
Good question. And at orientation, we do have an information fair where a lot of our clubs, excuse me, and student activity groups and groups in Bozeman do show up. It's a little bit tricky sometimes, especially at the summer orientations, to have everybody available because some of our students stay, some don't. But jumping back to Catapalooza, which Shannon had mentioned toward the beginning, that is where we extend invitations to pretty much every club and activity group on campus to come out and make themselves available for students on campus to learn more about. And that includes club sports, intramural sports. That is something I personally really enjoyed because when I got here, I didn't know anybody. I had no classmates, no family. So I was kind of starting over, which was intimidating, but also really cool. And to know that there were 250 club and activity groups was cool. But then to walk through campus, 5 blocks of sidewalk and then some, that was just packed full of tables and tents and booths from all these different club and activity groups was really, really cool. It was also a good way to get free stuff, so kind of a win-win. But to see that community out there to say, yeah, we want you to be a part of our group, or here's what we can offer you, was a really, really cool experience.
Yeah, and I think Max did a really good job explaining Catapalooza, and I know that you guys probably hear this a lot, but all of those clubs and organizations and fraternities and sororities, they will be heavily promoted in the first few days. So you'll see a lot of posters, you'll see a lot of booths, you'll definitely have the chance to learn about a lot of these opportunities. And so more and more info to always come as you transition into your time at MSU. Another question that we're getting is a little bit more about study abroad at MSU. We do have a study abroad program. We have over 250 different locations in over 60 different countries right now that you can travel. With that, you can start planning your experience your freshman year, but you can officially study abroad starting your 3rd semester or later. You can travel for either a semester, a year, 6 weeks in the summer, or there are some different faculty-led opportunities as well. So depending on some of the departments that you're in or the classes that you're taking, it is also really common for students to go with a faculty member or with some classmates too. The biggest thing that we always like to mention when it comes to study abroad is the finances. Actually, any experience that you're having abroad is going to be the exact same academic cost that you're having here at MSU. So your tuition and fees, your scholarships, your financial aid, all of that does still apply in your time abroad. You're really just just responsible for your personal fees and any transportation getting there. But with that, it is a pretty cheap experience, especially for some of our students maybe coming in from in-state. You really can't beat that deal. But always something to look into. We do have an involvement and study abroad fair as well. And so they do promote some of those opportunities, and they host different info sessions throughout the year too. So even if you're just interested in learning more about study abroad, there are also some opportunities to ask questions throughout the year too.
Absolutely. One question I always get a kick out of answering is students who are wondering, yeah, the skiing and snowboarding and winter sports are cool, and no doubt they absolutely are. We've got some really, really cool stuff around us as far as terrain and places. But what if I don't ski or snowboard? The question I get there is a lot is, am I still going to fit in on the MSU campus? Like, is it a place for me? I would say yes, absolutely. Again, we're known nationally and internationally for our winter sports in this part of the country. But the cool thing about Bozeman being one of the bigger cities in Montana, like Shannon mentioned, there's tons of other stuff that goes on. Yes, campus has the clubs and the activities and our cool events that we bring in. But then Bozeman itself offers a lot of really great experiences. It's a bigger town, so we get big concerts and guest speakers. Personally, as a student who grew up out of state, I don't think I would have believed you if you had told me that I'd be able to see people like Elton John or Tim McGraw and Faith Hill or 21 Pilots, Imagine Dragons come play our campus, but they do consistently. Or people like the late Maya Angelou, or She's a Shaheed, or Neil deGrasse Tyson coming to speak and work with our students. You get sort of great opportunities like that. One of my favorite examples to share, somebody from our office actually. He came down here, went to school at MSU, doesn't ski, doesn't snowboard, doesn't like the cold, doesn't like the snow. You're like, okay, is that going to work at MSU? He has now been in Bozeman for over 20 years. And the fact that our community is able to offer so much other stuff for you to do, because we don't really have an off season or time, it really gives you stuff to do. If you're getting bored, come find us. We'll find something for you, but you will definitely fit in, I promise.
Another question that we've gotten and frequently get is a little bit more about the CAT card and your student ID and how one can utilize that. Essentially, when you come for orientation, you have the opportunity to get your CAT card. That is going to be kind of your unlimited access to all things MSU. You use that CAT card to swipe in and out of the residence halls, the fitness center, a variety of different facilities on campus. That's also what you use for your meal plan. You use it to do laundry on campus. If you do ever lose it, you have the option of getting a new one. So it's not like you can't eat for the day. We have other options, but you can always replace your CAT card for a fee. With that, there are some cool programs associated with your CAT card. We have what's called Champ Change, and Champ Change is a program that incentivizes students to get involved and take advantage of some of our resources on campus. So every single time that you swipe that CAT card or use it, you're actually accumulating points throughout the year. And at the end of each semester, they have a auction, and you can use those points to bid on different items. And they have like iPods and tablets, ski passes. There's a scholarship that waives like books and supplies. And so there's some really neat ways that actually using your CAT card can benefit you, which is neat. But you do have the opportunity to get that CAT card when you first come here to MSU. And then with that, you will have it throughout your 4 years. We as alumni still have ours.
Still use them.
Yeah, still use them. So kind of your all access pass to all things MSU. One last question, maybe touching a little bit on like fitness center and taking advantage of some of those facilities too. Our fitness center is open for our students. Again, you use that CAT card to get on in there, and that's where you have everything from treadmills, weights, general workout equipment. They have basketball courts. That's where a lot of our intramural sports meets. We do also have activity classes, so you can actually get a 1 credit pass fail for like a cycling class or a Zumba class, and that's right across the street from our student union building. So it's really kind of in the center of campus, very easy to get to. You don't have to walk too far in the winter or anything like that. They have really accessible hours, so you can go before class if you want to go after class. And then with that, that's also connected to our Brick Breed and Field House, which is where those professional teams play. So it's all kind of in one general area. Something to note with our fitness center is that we are going to have some major renovations and remodels in the next few years. So there is some exciting things to come in that regard. There's been talks of rock climbing walls and kind of a wellness center. So I think that good things are for sure coming. We'll have more details out as we always find out more too.
Always. And like Shannon mentioned, the hours there, especially when I was a student, I loved it because I'm not an early morning person, but I can go after school or after dinner. So for them to be open early and stay open late was pretty cool. And with that, that's kind of the end of our Q&A period. So that's pretty much going to do it for us tonight. Again, folks, thank you so much for taking some time to join us this evening. We know your time is valuable, especially on a weeknight during the school year. Just a couple notes as we close out. First thing, don't forget that we do have more webinars coming kind of down the pipeline here. Shannon mentioned these toward the beginning. You can see the dates and subjects coming up here. We'll be covering majors in academic advising in February, orientation in our program there in March, and then the kind of those final steps to becoming a Bobcat in April towards the end of the year. You will get more info on those via email, so keep an eye out on your inbox. You can also see at the bottom there the link to our webinar website where you can catch recordings of all these webinars as well as see the upcoming schedule for what it's going to look like. So some great stuff still to come in the pipeline. We're not done yet, and we can't wait for you guys to join us. Some final notes as we close out here. Just to remind you, Webinar Wednesday is brought to you by the Montana State University Office of Admissions. For more information, including how to schedule a visit to campus, you can contact us at admissions@montana.edu via phone at 994-2452. Area code 406, or online at montana.edu/admissions. Of course, a special thank you tonight to our support team who have been rock stars on chat. We've been watching those questions go by. So thank you guys for helping out with that. We always appreciate it. We'd also like to extend a special thank you to the Montana State University Information Technology Office, without whose support these events would not be possible. So thank you to them. A copy of this presentation will be available for viewing on our website shortly. In the meantime, please don't hesitate to reach out with us with any additional questions. And stay in touch. We'd love to have you along with us again for another event. So until then, thanks again for joining us wherever in the world you may be, and have a wonderful evening.